Uh, Someone make a motion to approve the agenda, please. I would like to add the proclamation, if it's okay with everybody, at the top of the regular agenda. It won't take but just a few minutes.
I move to approve with that change.
Thank you, Jeff. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sandra. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, announcements. I did get a phone call from James this evening. He's sick and not gonna be able to attend, so. We got anybody on public comment? Thank you. Thank you, sir. So, Dan McCutcheon,
Yeah, all right,
good.
good. My name's Dan McCutcheon. I live down here in Mills River Village. And on February 6th, I met with the appraiser for the DOT. And I also understand that along 191, the DOT has already made some, I guess, arrangements with the DOT as far as taking their land and things like this. And I'm asking if we could get the DOT back in here to make sure we have a good look at the final renderings for the 191 improvement, as well as times, dates, because the last information I have is from 2020.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something the board could arrange to get the DOT in here to give us a little dog and pony, because a lot of people are just, they're asking, and no
Have
one has
you-
no one has any answers.
Have you got, you and several others along the 191 corridor inside Mills River Village that would like to meet with someone from DOT?
Well, it's a whole neighborhood, to be very honest with you, because
They're
it's,
worried about the entrance, I guess, or?
well, no, it's just about the timing, when it's going to start. They're starting on 280 and moving this way. Is it just one big project?
Yeah.
How long is it proposed? Because the last thing was, I think, 4 lanes with a continuous center lane. Has that changed? I don't know. I would just like to, me personally, and I know a lot of people in the neighborhood like to understand that what was finalized is truly what's going to happen.
Okay. What I can tell you from what I know.
Yeah.
I sat on the traffic advisory committee.
Okay.
In Henderson County.
Yeah.
I also sit on the Prince Claude MPO, which is regional.
Yep.
And what they're running into is just delay after delay after delay, mostly product, anywhere from concrete to structural stuff. It's got everything behind. I don't know if you go to Ward Bavard much.
Yep.
But even the roundabout up there,
Yep.
how long that is taking. It's the company that had bid on it had a job in Hendersonville. And it has or Flat Rock, and it's almost going to run out of time before they get this one done to get over there. So everybody's scrambling. There's not enough people to fill the needs. What I could do is I could ask if someone would come.
Yeah.
And we could get it on a future agenda.
That'd be great.
If not, if you would be so kind as sometime tonight to give someone your information,
Sure.
I would be glad to pass that on to the district guy.
Well, I've got their names and numbers. I'm just not getting a response from them.
I can help you with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
Jake Day, I think it is. I'm not getting a response because, like I said, people are asking me and I have no
If
idea.
I would have known you was coming, I could have brought my book from home that's got all that, the start and stop dates on it and
The current ones, because it was supposed to start like in 21.
well, they're still under some land acquisition issues here and there. And then I don't think that job has let yet
That's right.
for bid.
I've seen a lot of activity with,
Mhm.
lines and stuff on. So I know it's happening.
Just make sure you get us a contact
Sure,
so we can
absolutely.
let you know. We don't want you to miss it if I can get it on the agenda, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I can get someone to come and give us a
That'd be great.
5-minute speech about projected timeframe.
That'd be awesome.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
you're more than welcome. Okay, I've got Brian Ross back there. Come on up. Yes, sir.
Brian Ross, 16 Schoolhouse Road here in Mills River. Y'all know me. I can tell you a little bit about that. I fought it, but they just took some of mine on Schoolhouse Road at the
Right.
corner because the intersection is changing with 191 and they're still in the process of acquisitions. He said it might be this summer.
Yeah.
So good luck getting anything more defined than that.
Thank you.
So the quick 2 things I wanted to talk to you about. tonight is, one, you know, I'm on the planning board. I'm the newest person over there. We're getting ready to get three that are, you know, new as well. Would love to hear from you guys if you have time tonight or at another time we've got to appoint a chair soon. It would be great for me personally, not speaking for the board here, but me personally as a citizen, as a member of the board, how do you guys see that chair looking? What do you feel would be some good things? Not so much we don't wants, because I know we talked about that. But maybe some of the do ones. It'd be nice to hear that again, as a, you know, a citizen and as a board member. The other thing I want to bring the Board of Adjustment is something that I've also applied for. I hope you guys are okay with me applying for it, whether you select me or not. I feel like I bring a lot to that conversation as well. As a citizen, I was pretty embarrassed that we didn't have everyone that we needed to even finish that meeting. And I want to do my part at least to make sure that doesn't happen again. So I believe my application's on file.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, John.
All right, thank you. All right, any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. If someone would make a motion and approve our minutes from our last meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Sandy. Second. Randy, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to our regular agenda, if someone would be so kind as to read this proclamation we've set forth for Ellen Elizabeth Carlin. Sue can probably tell us more about Ellen than I can. I just know she was a local lady, born and raised around here. She helped through the inception of this idea of the town of Mills River becoming a town. She was involved in it from the start. Her and probably 4 or 5 others that I can remember. Early on, I missed the first 2 years. I took Jenny Hernandez's place on the council. But as long as Ellen was able, Ellen was here on the front row, watching, listening. She was here. She was a good advocate for Mills River and didn't want to live anywhere else except for maybe down at Clemson every once in a while or somewhere. That's about it. But with that being said, we're going to put this proclamation out in her honor, and we'll get it read into the meeting.
For those that don't know, Ellen passed away this week. Proclamation is for Ellen Elizabeth Carlin Day on September 4th. Whereas Ellen Elizabeth Carlin was a longtime, well-respected and loved resident of Mills River who gave freely of her time to her family and her community. And whereas Mrs. Carlin was married to her loving husband, Max Lowe, for 59 years, and together with him served Mills River through the family farming business. And whereas Ellen Elizabeth Carlin served all of Western North Carolina in her employment with the USDA Farm Service Agency for several years. And whereas Mrs. Carlin was a founding and lifelong member of the Mills River Fire and Rescue Auxiliary and an active volunteer and supporter for the Mills River branch of the Henderson County Library from its startup and for many years thereafter. Whereas Mrs. Carlin was an integral team member in the formation of the town of Mills River and continued to serve after its incorporation on its planning board from July 2003 until March 2010. And whereas Ellen Elizabeth Carlin sustained the town through its early years in many less formal and unrecognized roles through support of its leadership and staff in any way she was asked. And whereas Ellen Elizabeth Carlin was born September 4th, 1937, and lived her life with good humor, laughter, and love. Now, therefore, the Town Council of the Town of Mills River, in its gratitude for the many ways she improved the community, does hereby proclaim September 4th, 2023, and each September 4th in perpetuity as Ellen Elizabeth Carlin Day in Mills River, North Carolina, and urge all its citizens to recognize this observance. Proclaim this 23rd day of February, 2023.
Thank you, Sue. She would really appreciate that for sure. Okay, we're going to move along. Butterfly Garden.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a quick update before we jump into this one. You may recall from our budget cycle last year that the town funded the meadow as well as a butterfly garden. And we've been working with some and recall from just a couple of weeks ago. Nicole will go through some information regarding its location that we think will be a better location for this project, considering the just the natural growth of plants and pollination. So Nicole, with that, I'll hand it over to you for the more intelligible presentation.
Sure. Yeah, I think Daniel covered a lot of that. So as y'all remember, we did this butterfly garden as part of the managed meadow. And if Daniel pulls up the original master plan, we put the original master plan to see the original intention for that garden was to have it in close proximity to the wildflower meadow, because a lot of the flowers and plants would reflect and educate folks on what's happening naturally in the new meadow. Once we got some experts involved, they quickly informed me why that wasn't going to be working. So when you have that wildflower meadow and the natural reseeding, it would basically be weeds that we would never be able to keep them out of that garden space. And then in addition to that, the flooding that we regularly get back there, they just didn't feel that was a good location for that. But we do still think it's an important project. We do still think it's a valuable to the community to be educated on what is happening in that back meadow. We just needed to look at maybe a different location. So I met out here with Steve Pettis. He's with Extension. I want to say Ag Extension, but it's Ag Extension through NC State and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife folks. And so we looked at a few spots around the park that are out of the floodplain. And so the one location we kind of narrowed in on is up near that chimney, up near the front end of the park. So you can see on the current master plan where that is. And this is kind of just an underutilized space right now. Its biggest use is when folks that are late for soccer and they cut through there to get over to the walking trail, get over the soccer fields. So we thought this was a good opportunity to kind of bring what's going to be happening in the back and educate folks that sometimes maybe only use the front end of the park. You'd be surprised how many people come out here and don't even realize the river is at the back end of the park because they came out to use the playground, they came out to use the soccer fields, do that active recreation. So we thought this might be a good location. I have Steve Pettis here. He can tell you a little bit more about the process of doing that garden. And he's also got a slideshow of some pictures of other gardens that he has managed. And mostly just because this is a change from the master plan, we just really wanted to get council's feedback. But the funding's already there. The money wouldn't change, anything like that. We're really just looking at location. So, you know, pull up the PowerPoint of pictures. And you can kind of, you want to go through and
Greetings. My name's Steve Pettis. I work for the Henderson County Cooperative Extension Service, NC State. I know most of you guys. This is the Flat Rock Park Pollinator Garden. And I've been involved with this since its inception, when I came here 6 years ago. And much like you all, they had the master plan and they had this spot picked out for the pollinator garden, and myself and with Master Gardeners, which is an organization that I manage. We have slowly put this thing together, and this is what it looked like last year. So kind of give you an idea of what it could look like if we put enough effort into it. And if you want to just advance the slide. This is an example of signage that is used at pollinator parks. Educational signage, as you all know, I'm sure pollinators have all kinds of things going against them. And those of us in agriculture are more focused these days on preserving beneficial insects as much as we are controlling bad insects. So this signage we feel like is important to teach locals and people about pollinators. If you talk to any kindergartner, they know about monarch butterflies, right? So even young kids will identify with this thing. Could you advance it, please? This is what it looked like early on. Not when we first started, we didn't even have gravel walkways or the stone borders or anything like that. It's just, you know, it has grown organically over time. We did have the outline laid out, and you can just see that, you know, to set expectations that when you first finish it, it doesn't look like the first picture does. So I just wanted that picture to be in there. If you could advance it, please. But it, just, if you just want to just every 10 seconds advance through there. I'll
I've
wait
got
for
it.
You
I'm
got
going
it?
to- yeah, I
You're
got
doing it? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm looking. So as you can see, these are volunteers you'll see in here, Master Gardeners. It's not just Master Gardeners, though. We've built a coalition of Master Gardeners and local community members to form a gardening group, Flat Rock Pollinator Garden Group. And they meet 1 day a week out there to work in the garden, to improve it, maintain it, that sort of thing. That I would recommend that sort of thing here is putting together allowing a volunteer group to form around this. That will really help. It gives ownership to the community, and you'll find that the place doesn't get abandoned like some projects do. These high profile pollinator parks are super popular. People come from all over to visit this park, especially. And I'm really glad to see that Mills River has considered doing this. I think it's really important for us as government officials to set the example for people in their home landscapes, to plant more natives, more pollinator friendly plants, and to help encourage doing things that are good for the environment. So I appreciate Nicole bringing me in on it. I'm happy to help in any way I can. And in my role, I see as consulting with the you know, plant choices and the design and that sort of thing, but also helping put together that management team. And finally, that's the Appalachian swallowtail. I just learned recently that we have the eastern swallowtail butterfly, which you've all seen, the little yellow one, is half the size of the Appalachian swallowtail. And I didn't even know that existed until very recently. So even somebody who's doing this for a living can learn from participating in these sorts of projects. So thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Question.
Yes, sir.
So how much time do you think during this growing season would it take to maintain a butterfly garden like?
That
Like the
this
one at
garden,
Flat Rock?
yes, this one here is 2 acres. So, but the core of it is not. The
Okay.
core of it is maybe half an acre, a little less. They spend 1 day a week, 4 hours to maintain it.
And there's a team of how many?
It varies.
Okay.
I think it's built over time. It started out with just 2 or 3 master gardeners, and now it's about 20
Okay.
people
20.
that regularly show up. And now they have like lunches, and they serve coffee in the mornings, and it's turned into a real community event,
Good.
you know, each week when they do this. But they do it during the growing season, spring through fall, and then they take the winters off. Any other questions?
Any more questions while he's up? How hard is it to get the initial group together?
I already have 2 master gardeners who are interested in
Okay.
helping. So
Okay.
they'll be the core nucleus of the volunteer group.
After looking at this site, how big do we feel it might be? Third of acre, quarter of acre?
Did we walked it off? I can't remember. I would say it was probably it's less than a quarter of an acre, far less,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
maybe an eighth.
That's-
So it's relatively small,
Mhm.
but you know, it doesn't have to be, you know, if you want to grow over time, it doesn't have to be just in that spot. You can take little corners here and there
Gotcha.
that you develop throughout the park as well. So
Awesome.
Cole, are you comfortable thinking that we're gonna have, because if we don't have volunteers to take care of it, it's gonna be on you. So I'm just throwing that to you. You think the interest is there to get volunteers?
I do. I regularly get requests of like, hey, can I come? I mean, I have people that weed our little garden right by the basketball court now, people that are just always looking for something to do. So I really think it could be a very successful program here.
I mean, and part of what I do for a living is building volunteer groups.
Okay.
The Master Gardener Group is 120 strong. We have more than 20 projects around the county that we participate in or own.
Wow.
You know, we wouldn't own this one, but we would
Yeah.
certainly participate in it.
Awesome.
Master gardeners have to earn volunteer hours each year to maintain their certification, and this would be approved for that. So what happens is if there's a project, like there's no project really in Mills River. So all the master gardeners that live out here, which I don't have the number on, but there's several, would prefer to go here so they don't have to drive
Oh.
across town.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
So Nicole, are you looking for us to, okay, the move initially is what you're looking for?
Yeah,
Okay,
just, if everybody's okay with the location move, as I said, the money's already been budgeted, so that's not an issue.
okay. And where it's at, we have no other plans, never even spoke of any other plans for that, have we?
No, and I think I mentioned in my report, I did speak to the town engineer, because one thing I wanted to make sure now that we own that other parcel, to make sure we had plenty of room for a connection. And
Okay.
he saw no issue with what we were trying to do here,
Great.
that we wouldn't be able to work through that.
With the size of it coming down from back there to up here, would the cost not come down any?
Probably will. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? No. Do you need that in a form of a motion? We do, okay. If anyone is okay with it, we'll entertain a motion.
Like the motion that we take staff's recommendation on the location of Butterfly Garden.
Thank you, Randy. Anybody second that one? Thank you, Sandra. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, okay. We'll move it up there. Thank you, sir. If you need to go, feel free.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Okay. Recreational cost recovery.
Council, this is an agenda item that we've talked a little bit about over the last couple of months since we've gotten into programming and special events this year with our new parks programmer. We need to figure out a way to account for the fees that take to run various programs. So Nicole has come up with a methodology for this, which I think is very sound, that will separate things based upon the collective value to the community versus if it's more of a direct benefit to an individual. So Nicole, I'll pull up the presentation in just a moment, but the floor is yours.
Yeah, as Daniel said, so we've been looking at this for the last several months with our Parks Advisory Board. They can let you. We've gone through it pretty extensively to come up with this. So we've looked at what some other communities are doing. We looked at what's considered recommended best practices in the field of Parks and Recreation. And then we looked at what we thought fit our community. And so this is where this policy has come from. And as Daniel said, what we really wanted to look at is to make sure we're spending our tax dollars more on what's for everybody, that has that more community benefit, rather than having programs that are very individualized, to make sure that we're recovering those costs at a much higher rate than we would be events that are for the public and have a much greater community need. So first, basically the purpose of this policy is to set guidelines and standards for the cost recovery of our Parks and Recreation programs, and to help guide staff in developing appropriate program fees. As I said, to develop this policy, we looked at best practices as far as Parks and Recreation, and we reviewed some of our peer agencies. We held multiple workshops with the Parks, Trails and Recreation Committee. And so the policy really tasks the Parks, Trails and Recreation Committee the ability to review and give regular guidance on the kind of cost recovery efforts that we're doing as staff. But it also gives staff the ability to make that decision based on updated market rates. And that's particularly important. You think about now, if we would have said once a year, we set the cost of a certain class, we know prices have gone up, and we would be stuck with that fee until we could revisit it again. So it's really important that staff can look at the costs that are actively happening in that program to make sure we're not either undervaluing or overvaluing our programs. So to do this, we're looking at what we call a beneficiary of service model, which basically means there's, again, the more community benefit, the higher the subsidy would be. And as you get more into that individual benefit. And so the Parks Committee has come up with a tier 5 model that has just 5 different levels that we could classify programs. So our first tier, which is the lowest percent of recovery that we would do, is again your highest level. So things just having our parks and open space out here. We're not going to charge people to come walk the trail and that sort of thing. But looking at our special events or particularly community wellness or safety activities, volunteer programs, we wouldn't charge people to come. The Master Gardeners program, they're coming to help us and help the community, that sort of thing. Our tier 2 looks at events that have a degree of individual benefit, but there's still value to the whole community. So things like that are youth programs for at youth risk. There's that individual benefit for that child, but having something for kids to do after school, there's less crime that Jim's getting calls for. There's a greater community benefit. Things like aging and wellness programs for seniors. It benefits that senior, but it also benefits the community by not having to make house calls all the time for falls and some things like that. So we're looking at those kind of activities. Your level 3, that's going to be your what a lot of people traditionally think of as your recreation communities. You got your youth sports, you've got your after school programs, you've got some summer camps, things like that. And then as you get, again, a little higher, more into that individualized programs, you have things like, senior trips or advanced art programs. So this isn't just for your beginner that just really needs that opportunity to get out and try. This is that gets that into that little more advanced. We're going to try to recover more costs for that. And then again, you get into that highest level. So things like our movie night, it's free, but somebody buys popcorn, that's only benefiting that individual. So, we're going to look at 100% plus cost recovery on those. If, we're not to this point yet where we have a ton of space and we can start offering private lessons. But, as we get there and as we grow, that may be options that we want to make sure that if it's a very individualized benefit, that we are going to make 100% of our costs back plus some. So just to show you how kind of we would calculate our costs. So the cost of the program would be determined by calculating the direct cost of the program. So things like instructors' costs, part-time staff salaries, supplies, all that sort of stuff. And then, so you take to get your resident fee, you take your costs and you would times it by the recovery percentage that was designated. And then you would divide it by the minimum number of participants for that particular program. So just to give you sorry, I got a couple slides so I get there. So to do that, I think in your packets, we've come up with a program proposal form so that as we come up with new programs that we're really looking at what's the objective of the program, who's the target audience of the program, what's the proposed cost recovery, what's the expected cost going to be, and what kind of expected revenue from both fees and potential other sources like grants or sponsorship. And so from that, we will come up with a cost recovery goal, and that would get approved by myself. And then, but we also want to make sure we got some checks and balances, and that's where the Parks Advisory Board would come into play. And 3 times a year, every program we would do, we would set a time in our agenda aside to review our cost recovery efforts. And they would give recommendations on whether they think it's an appropriate level. And so we would make adjustments from there. And then just as a reminder, as far as setting the budgets for programs and overall revenue goals, that still will happen as part of the budget cycle through you all. And so kind of looking at just a couple of examples of how this might work. So here we have a senior trip. So we decide we want to take a group of seniors to the Biltmore House. Again, it's a great program. I think seniors would absolutely love to be able to have that social opportunity, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really a pretty individualized benefit. So we would want to cover, pretty good cost recovery. And again, this is really simplified just to kind of give you all the idea of how it would work. So you would look at your costs, so the total program costs, look at transportation, look at the tour costs, you look at other miscellaneous costs, whether that be, marketing, some flyers, some things like that. So at this particular cost, we'd want to cover 100% costs. So we would take the $1,500 cost, times it by 1, essentially 100%, and then we would divide it by 12, which is the minimum number of folks we would run the trip with. So essentially, if we got 11 people, we wouldn't run the trip. We'd say, we don't have enough. I'm sorry, we can't offer this. But when we get that 12th person, that's where we start to get our fees. So doing that, it would cost $125. So that would be the transportation, the tour to the house, everything like that. But I want you to notice that if we get the maximum number, so anything over that minimum is going to be continued cost recovery. And also as part of this, we want to look at different rates for resident versus non-residents. We of course want to give our taxpayers a better rate and charge that upcharge for non-residents who might want to participate in our programs. So that would just be an example of a tier 4 program. And I try to stick with all seniors just so you guys can have an idea that, you know, it might be the same people participating, but the reason. So if we say did a senior Tai Chi class, so that would be like a 6-week class. Again, have a minimum of 10, maximum of 25, but with this, there's senior wellness involved, it's the great social skills. So while it's obviously individualized benefit, there's all the health and wellness benefits as well. So we want to, we're looking at a 60% cost recovery. So again, we add up our contracting, our contractor costs, our marketing costs, that sort of thing. And from there, we take that $600. Our minimum recovery is going to be 60% of that, and we divide that by the minimum number. So you would you get to a rate of $36. But again, if you reach your maximum participation, you're still going to bring in $900 for that program you spent $600 on. But if you always try to get that 100% cost recovery, you're going to price some people out. So that's why we're trying to find that balance for that program. And again, any non-resident, you'd get that additional rate as well. And then just as another example, so of what a tier 1 program would be, we might try to do a senior health and wellness expo. So again, this is going to be open to the public. Any senior or anyone who loves the senior could come. We would have, free health screenings, all that sort of stuff. So this is not something we would charge for. There would always be the opportunity. Can we get sponsorships? Can we find grant money to help do that? That of course is something staff would always look into, but ultimately 100% of the cost of that, we would not recover. Our goal would not be to recover any. That doesn't mean we won't through grants or other opportunities, but that would not be the goal of that program. So I know that was a lot and it was fast, and I'm sure you have lots of questions. So,
Questions for Nicole?
happy to listen. Answer questions you might have.
So how often did you say y'all are going to review the,
We decide on 3 times a
3
year.
times a year.
We threw some different times out, but we thought that was enough of a, every 4 months to be able to sit back, look at those programs from the last 4 months and review and get some feedback.
I'm curious as to where some of this would take place. The senior fitness activities and so forth. Or will they be on site here, other
Most
locations?
of them. So yeah, I mean, we have this room that we are planning on utilizing. There's always the opportunity for outdoor programs, and we've had some really good conversations with the school about using some of their facilities for not daytime use. So, as I said, if you want to build me a rec center, I will fill it up and we'll be on it. But
Yes.
yeah, but there's a lot of stuff we can do with the space we have
Okay,
to get
okay.
started. Yeah.
Is the average cost of instructors like $600?
It completely depends on the type of program and their training. So I would say about $100 an hour for a group class I'd say that's about average. So for that, it was like a 6-week program. So that $100 an hour, if it was an hour class,
Right.
they would get $600 over the course of those 6 weeks.
Okay, and they would meet like what, once a week?
Once a
or-
week. Well, and again, it completely did. These were just example programs. So
Right.
there could be some programs that we end up doing twice a week because it has that much popularity or some things like that. As I said, those were just strictly examples of things we could do and what it would look like.
Okay. Looks like y'all put a lot of good work into this. I think it looks pretty good.
These instructors, are they certified somewhere where you know who they are, what they are, what they're all about?
Yes, well, we're
background check.
making some, like, we've met with several instructors, and so we make them almost like a job application. So
Okay.
they have an application, they come in, they'll meet with Katrina and I,
Okay.
we check references, all that sort of
Okay.
stuff. So yeah, we're not just
I guess.
pulling someone off the street that says they're good at something.
Okay, all right.
But yeah.
So Nicole, like your tier one, your example you gave, like going to Biltmore House.
Mm.
So you would have a minimum number for an activity like that, correct?
Mhm.
So would you run that all the way through all of your activities and classes that you're thinking about?
As far as a minimum
All pro-
number,
A minimum number?
yes, yeah, we would do that with every program that you would come up with. Usually it's with talking with the instructor of seeing, one, what financially works for us. So again, if we make the minimum number 3 and then I have to split the cost, and now a preschool nature class is, $50 a class, we obviously wouldn't be able to do that. So we would base our minimum number a little bit on what is worth it. So what we think would make a reasonable rate. And then, yeah, so every program we do would have a minimum number that if we didn't reach, basically, we just wouldn't run the program. And if, we try to offer it a couple times, after a couple times, you say, okay, we got to go back to the drawing board, this one's just not going to work. And we find something, find that other program that has the demand in the community. So,
So, yes, so how are you going to determine what I can see? So a community, I heard you use that word a lot during the presentation, and I heard you use individual. The word individual part of it too. So a community is made up of individuals. So how do you go about not blurring the lines between what is for an individual and what is for the community?
it's hard.
I'm
And
sure
it is hard. And that's where we'd really look at, one, our mission and values that we have as a department. And does that meet the goals? We have our Parks and Rec master plan that we got a lot of feedback from the community about what their needs and wants are. So we would use that information, and definitely community surveys and stuff is something that will be a regular part of things we do to determine what we offer and what people's needs are. But I think that's why we have the checks and balances with the Parks Advisory Board. So it's not just, I might look at it differently than other people do. And that's where it is hard, because there's no way to draw that line. But as I said, as we look at the objectives of programs, we look at the outcomes and the goals of why we're doing the program. And then we get the checks and balances of having our Parks Advisory Board check those and see if our thinking as staff is on the same page as the folks that represent our community. And I think that's why it works, because you have that checks and balances.
So I don't want
Well,
to hog the time here. I'm just that, I'm a little bit curious. So the ball field, so it's been in the program, it's been in part of the park facility here long enough to know where are they at as far as the ones that they use.
So, okay, so rentals are different. They won't fall under this policy unless we did a baseball program. So if we were running like a youth sports program, that would be different. So facilities, we will look at that every year. We'll look at market values. We can look at what some of our costs are for those, and if we feel they need to get raised. So like something like that would still be done as part of the regular fee schedule that we would do yearly. But again, if we were going to run our own baseball program, we want to start a T-ball league. That's where this policy would come into play. And it would be about the league, not necessarily the facility.
I just want to pick up on that rental concept. Educate me a little bit. If I want to sponsor a pickleball tournament and I want to rent 2 courts out here, am I only responsible to pay for that rental rate, or is there, even if I'm gonna have 60 people come through there in the course of renting it for half or full day, is it still the same hourly rate as if I just wanted to use it as an individual or?
So, well, currently we don't rent pickleball or tennis courts, so we wouldn't allow you to do that.
Okay, well, I want to have softball.
So
tournament
softball
now.
tournament.
Let me do that.
So you would have to pay the rate. Yeah, we only charge, we have a game rate and a practice rate. So it basically goes based on if you want the field lined or not. That's how we make that determination.
Okay, I know
So
we're getting a little far off the reservation, but I was just curious about if I rented the softball field all day and wanted to have 8 teams come through with men's softball or something, that the impact on the park in terms of the
So-
amount of parking spaces it would
Mhm.
dominate and use of the restrooms and facilities like that, I thought.
And that would actually fall under a special event permit. So that would actually be, they would have to pay to rent the field in addition to do our special event permit if it affects more than just that like that facility they're using. So if they're a travel ball team is using it for practice, they're taking up 12 parking spots, normal baseball field use. But if someone were to do an event like that, they would also have to go through the special event permit process.
Okay, thank you
Makes
for
sense.
bringing me up to speed on that.
Sure.
So if this thing is approved as presented, it gives y'all the flexibility as y'all look at this thing in the third of the year to adjust the rates, correct? Okay. Anything else? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve, deny, or approve with modifications.
I would like to say that, when y'all do meet and look at adjusting the rates that you do, let us know, how it goes.
Sure.
And
Is this something you need right away? Nicole, or is
Ideally, yes, because it is stopping us from doing programs that charge fees.
it-
Well, I'll say that I'm happy to see it and I appreciate the work that you and your staff put in to come up with this policy. And I move that this council adopt the cost recovery policy for Parks and Recreation as presented.
Thanks, Jeff. Anybody second?
Oh, well.
Thank you, Brandon. Any, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Board of Adjustment vacancy, second alternate. I know we got some, applications sent there by Patty this week, and I hope everybody had a chance to look them over.
So I emailed you the two we had one application on file and we received a new application from Brian Ross. I did reach out to the application on file and they finally answered and they're still interested.
Okay.
So you have 2 applications to consider.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, thoughts?
I looked over the application and I thought Mr. Ross's looked very good. He's been active. Other boards that we have, but I appreciate the hard work he's put in. I think it would be a good
Okay.
run off.
Okay, and it's my understanding he's serving on the planning board right now as a new.
Yes.
Okay, that term runs for how long?
Summer of 24.
Summer of 24, okay. And this would be for an alternate position, correct? Second alternate position. Okay. Feedback,
I can see the benefit in having somebody that sits on a planning board, some continuity to also be on the Board of Adjustment. So I appreciate Mr. Ross stepping up. And
Okay.
so I'm supportive of that.
anything else? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we appoint Mr. Brian Ross to the Board of Adjustment.
Thank you. Second,
I'll say.
Sandra. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, resolution in support of the farmland preservation.
So something that we have been talking about for some time now, farmland preservation. And as I've said before, and I'll just reiterate for those listening, in North Carolina, counties have the legal authority to purchase farmland development rights. Think of conservation easements as an example. strictly for agricultural purposes. Cities, municipalities can purchase conservation easements for open space, for areas of cultural significance, for parks or open use like that, and a handful of other situations. Although the authority does not exist for municipalities to purchase development rights for agricultural land for the purpose of preservation. So we have been in contact with our local delegation, specifically Representative Balcom, about the possibility of developing a local bill which would provide that authority from the state. Because as you may recall from our budget discussions, everything we do has to be authorized by the state. It's not, where does it say we can't? We always have to look where does it say we can in the statutes. And right now, there is no we can. So that's what we're working on. We've been in contact with her office. And this resolution is essentially a formal ask of her office to develop and support something like this. And I have been in contact with the town's attorney about drafting language. We're waiting to hear back from Representative Balcom on how she'd like to proceed with that, whether her staff would do it or the town attorney would do it. The attorney has done this before for Mills River, so it's not something that would be new to her. It's just a matter of drafting it for this specific purpose.
Okay. Any questions? So looking for a motion to move this resolution along.
No, can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely.
Would this be the town of Mills River purchasing the development rights?
It could be. I think what might be a simpler option in terms of management would be to partner with another agency to do that. So we would essentially set up a fund, and then a land trust would come to us with an interested owner, and the town would grant funds for that purpose. And I say that when you purchase conservation easements, it's not as simple as just the transaction. There's annual reports, annual inspections that have to be done. And we're not really equipped to do that kind of work. It would be best to leave that to the experts who do that every day, which are the land trusts.
What kind of group would you look to partner with?
There's several land trusts in the area. I don't know who specifically we would work with, but the example that comes up often is Conserving Carolina. They've done some work in the community. Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy does work and mostly in Buncombe County, I believe, but they're somewhat local. Those are the two that I can think of offhand, but it would be someone like that.
Any more questions, discussion? Hearing none. Entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
Make the motion to approve resolution 28-42. Support of farmland preservation.
Okay, second. Thank you, Jeff. All in favor? Aye. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, move on down here to our panhandling / soliciting, I guess you'll say.
Last week I was driving home and I saw an individual on the highway of 280 and Jeffers Road, and he was working his way up and down through traffic, and it was going all around him, wanting people to give him money. And it was a extremely dangerous situation. And I called Daniel and I said, Daniel, this is what we have going on. You know, we need to visit this because it's extremely unsafe. And in talking to several constituents, I have found out that Hendersonville City does issue permits. And for that, that's how they handle solicitation. And I spoke with another individual who knows about Charlotte, and he said they do the same thing and it works very well down there. And so talking to more people and figuring out if we were to start selling permits or licenses, it would help know where people are and keep them in safe environments. The town would know who they are and where they are. It would cover individuals driving around in pickup trucks with freezers in the back selling meat. I've seen that. And people on the side of the road and in intersections. I've also seen people in the middle of 280 and 191 on this end coming back. Usually that's like 5 people with buckets.
Mhm.
And I think that maybe if we could look into, setting up some way of permitting them, then we can keep it a safe environment and do background checks on them to know, are they legit? Are they somebody who's wanted by the law, or, is it safe for people? And I would like to see about putting provisions in there for nonprofits such as the fire department, the Lions Club, churches, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, to where maybe there's a waived fee
Okay.
for that.
I, I noticed that you mentioned Hendersonville and Charlotte. They would have their own police system.
Right.
I'm just thinking out loud, if, after you said that, if we get our own permit fee,
Mhm.
I'm thinking, help me if I'm wrong, wouldn't we have to enforce their actions after the permit was put out there?
Obviously, we don't have our own police department, but we do have the sheriff's office. But I think the reality of it is, it's a very difficult thing to enforce,
Mhm.
even if permits are issued. In this instance, when I received the call from Councilman Good, I picked up the phone and called the sheriff's office. And within 5 minutes, it was late in the evening, so I was leaving the office anyway. So I drove to the intersection and couldn't locate this person. And I understand the sheriff's office could not either. So it's a difficult thing to enforce. And I will also mention that this is a little bit of a tricky subject because it's protected by the First Amendment.
Mhm.
Panhandling, believe it or not, is a form of free speech. So while I think there is certainly some legitimacy to the idea of permitting, I just think the reality of it and the practicality of it would be very difficult. And also just food for thought is, this has come up recently. It's not a ongoing issue that we've had a lot of complaints about. We have seen it over the years. But it's not something that is dealt with every day. But to the point of safety, that's obviously something that can be addressed with law enforcement today.
Right.
And that was really, when I called the sheriff's office about this particular instance, that's what they were gonna do, is just make sure that that individual was not within the roadway. 'Cause
Okay.
that's obviously very dangerous.
Well, I would suggest that we do just keep an eye on it and see where it goes. If it progressively gets worse, then we come back to this for sure and make sure we've got it, at least we know about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Jim, how do y'all handle situations like that, or what do y'all do?
The group at 191 and Haywood Road that you spoke about. Last time we had them, I called Daniel, and Daniel, we had the conversation about the First Amendment right. We will go out and enforce the impeding the flow of traffic and safety issue,
Mhm.
but that's really all the enforcement that we have on that,
Okay.
especially being inside the town, unless there's
Mhm.
other ordinances that give
exactly.
a misdemeanor. It may be something, maybe from a permitting side, we don't, but maybe,
Okay.
the permitting side
Planning stuff. Okay.
could enforce. But of course, if they're doing it on somebody's private property, they're more than welcome to call us. We can deal with trespassing issues and that sort of thing. So the impeding the flow of traffic, and like what you saw running in and out of traffic, immediately call us, because the delay they'll disappear. And so we've been lucky because what's up around the interstate has not come this way so far. We've been very lucky with that, but we keep a close eye on that. And we'll get out, we'll check folks and that sort of thing if they're in a place they shouldn't be,
Mhm.
and go from there.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion on that? Hearing none. We'll go to staff updates. So, town clerk, when you get caught up.
We have no report.
Thank you. Parks and Rec.
Just very quickly, I really want to give a big thank you to Asheville Greenworks, who donated 53 trees, and to the many volunteers with the Mills River Partnership, Sierra Nevada Brewing, and just some citizens that wanted to come out and help us. We were able to plant those 53 trees in 46 minutes
Wow.
yesterday. It was pretty impressive. They were they were not, I mean, they were 2-gallon bucket trees, so they were little sticks, but so we're just very appreciative of Asheville Greenworks for being able to donate that to us. The vast majority of those went by our riverbank restoration project. We had so many trees that were taken down along the riverbank. That's really going to help us hold that project in the years to come. So we're just very thankful for that. Just as a heads up for everyone that uses the park, so baseball started this week. It's hard to believe that it's February, but it's already time for baseball. So Rugby Middle School's been out here practicing, and they'll have their first games in early March. And then next week starts soccer and tennis. So we're excited to have folks back out in the park for the spring. And last but not least is Mills River Day, May 6th. So make sure everybody has that on their calendar. We're still accepting sponsorship and vendor applications, but it's going to be a really fun day. We got a horse show happening that day. We got a tractor pull happening that day, kids zone, music, all sorts of fun stuff. So it's going to be a really great day to highlight all the really awesome things in Mills River.
Awesome.
That's it.
Planning director, Michael.
Yeah, just a couple updates. I've gotten quite a few calls this week about what's going on next to the fire department. So just wanted to put that out there for the public, for council. That is the development site of B&F Ceramics. They're going to be using it for warehousing, offices, and a retail showroom facility. And they are a flooring and tile distributor based out of Virginia. Distributor, retailer, and wholesaler of tile and flooring. Additionally, I know this was in council staff report, but just for the public, the planning department approved the Asheville Air Traffic Control Tower and Terminal Radar Approach Control Facility recently. So you should be seeing more development. I think they're just getting started, but in the coming months, you'll see more development traffic on Ferncliff Park Drive and Westfelt Road out that way. We also recently approved a new commercial site for Thorsland Concrete on the old Moore Dairy Farm property on South Mills River Road. I know they've been demolishing some structures out there, but just for our residents out there, that's what's going on at that location. It is in the critical area of the watershed, but because there's so much existing concrete and impervious surfaces from the farm predating any watershed ordinance, they were able to claim a lot of credits for that. So the actual impact in terms of new built upon surfaces is extremely minimal. And then the townhomes on Jeffress Road, revisit that again. They have started bringing fill dirt to the site. So there are a number of dump trucks that are going to be going between the fill dirt site at South Mills River Road and Boylston Highway up to Jeffress Road and Boylston Highway. It seemed pretty busy there today when our planning technician was out in the field. So just for any residents or anyone who have concerns, please call us, and I have the direct number to the developer, and they're very responsive, and we'll take care of any issues.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Daniel?
Just a couple of quick notes. First of all, I believe it was today, or maybe it was this week, we have collected 98% of the tax bills that we anticipated collecting this year, which means we've met our budget number. So that's always an important milestone we like to get to every year. There's never any doubt, but I always just let folks know. And I think just for the benefit of the public, and Mayor Gauntz, you asked me this question a week or so ago, the new intake that the city of Hendersonville is working on the French Broad River, and whether that would have any impacts on the town of Mills River in terms of watershed, and the answer is no.
Okay.
The maps were already drawn to include that intake, so that the maps that were recently adopted with our watershed administration program were already accounted for that. So it won't impact anything as far as staff or other residents.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
I hate to put you on the spot, but have you had a chance to, I know there's still an appeal process out there, but when will we hear what the Mills River financial gain could possibly be from the new evaluation?
So we got numbers last week, which were amended this week, which I plan to include with your weekly report coming out tomorrow.
Okay.
But just I hazard a guess, I believe the real property value increased by roughly 43%, if I'm not mistaken. 44.98. There you go.
44.98.
And Mills
Okay.
River. And the county is actively accepting appeals. Get that in by, I believe, April 13th is the deadline for that.
Okay.
And then the board will meet in the month of May to hear all of those appeals. So we won't know the true value, I guess you could say, until after that date. But we know that it's increased significantly thus far.
I know it's the appeal process is a tough one for the citizens and the county,
Mhm.
but how is it gonna be your approach to the budget, actual budget number?
Mhm.
Do we have, does the county let you know how many potential appeals is out there from Mills River? Or no?
They've never provided that, but I'm sure we could get that from them. I don't see why that.
Potential,
Mhm.
the potential plus or minus.
Yeah,
I'm just curious how someone like yourself's gonna come up with me a budget number
right.
when it's still gonna be middle to late May before you even know what we're
Mhm.
potentially getting.
So we get projections every month,
Okay,
typically starting in February, every year, regardless of whether it's reval year. So we receive them for this month, we'll get them mid-March and we'll get them
Okay.
mid-April. And so we get them every month. And just for reference, the last couple of years, I think we have gone with the March numbers
okay,
as far as budget development goes.
okay.
But they, in those monthly numbers that we get, they include the number of appeals that they have pending or applications they've received. So again, we've never asked that information, but I'm sure we can get it.
I just don't think the appeal process that they're gonna have to go through this time seems like it's gonna be more significant than the past reevaluations. It seems to
Yeah.
me, I just hear more people in the public talking about
Right.
it. How they're having to go through it and make it happen. So they're gonna be a lot sent to them.
I expect so.
Yeah, okay. Anything else? Okay, council comments? Sandra, you got anything?
I always do.
Okay, I'll listen.
Anybody else want to go first? No? Okay. Let's see. I had a constituent call me and ask me if I noticed about the night lights. So who's responsible for maintaining the night lights?
The streetlights,
Mhm.
the town is ultimately, we lease them with Duke, so it's our responsibility. Are they not working or was there a complaint?
Well, I did ride around and look. And at Ray Hill Road, there's 5 of them out.
Oh, wow, okay.
And the ones at Butler Bridge are all working.
Okay.
And there was some that was blue, but they've been changed out. And I believe down where Schoolhouse Road, I think there was like 3 out there.
Roger used to get out and take the surveying tape and tape the poles for him. He
Maybe-
did.
Have
Did he
you-
not, Sue?
Have
he
you
would.
got tape?
We can buy your old.
I can do that because it was quite a job, let me tell you.
Yeah,
I'm making 4
just think it since you're making a lap, just go ahead and mark them. Okay,
I might need a vest too.
okay, there you go.
We're set now.
No,
We can 2 of us go and make it teamwork.
that's right. You just have to, she'll get overtime though, because it's at night.
Well, I'm talking about one of y'all.
Oh. Sorry, Jim. Go ahead, I'm sorry, I'm dragging this out.
And someone else called about the new school signs on Butler Bridge Road by Glen Marlowe.
Mhm.
And they said they were glad to see them, but there's no notice for Fanning Field Road coming on. So she said, if you come through there and don't know it, you could pull out, and if you get on it, next thing you know, you're over the speed limit. And I myself did not realize that it dropped down to 20. I thought it was 30. So I myself was guilty, and I had a conversation with Jim, and he showed me the light. So I now ride the brakes through there.
Okay.
And I would, have any of y'all had a chance to go look at the property up here?
I did ride down the road and look over in there since it was a pretty day. I didn't get out and walk it though.
Well, I met with Nicole and Daniel and Linda and Joe. And I think it looks like a pretty good fit. So I was wanting to see if maybe we could get it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay. You'll have to ask the manager and the clerk if I mean, ultimately, we can put it on if we want to, but what's it looking like? Is it getting stacked up?
Your next meeting is March 9th.
Yes, ma'am.
There's not much there because we're gonna be talking about visioning,
Okay,
and that will lap over into your March 10th visioning meeting.
okay, that's right. Exactly.
Yes, mark your calendars.
I don't have a problem with it. Randy? Yeah.
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 Oh, I'm sorry.
So she's wanting to add, you've got it,
Yeah,
okay. And we'll just add it to, and get it up front and we can put it in the discussion, even the visioning process.
sure thing.
Okay, fits in perfect.
And I never heard back on the solar chargers. Did we ever find anything out on that?
No. I haven't forgotten about it. Just I've not had the time to do it.
Okay.
We'll get that number to you as soon as we can.
And somebody else asked, are we gonna do a town celebration for June the 3rd for our 20 year?
We had talked about doing something for our 25th anniversary, but it's a pleasure of the board. We can
It's up to you.
put something together.
They just asked if we want.
Yeah, we don't have anything planned right now.
And I noticed on the manager's report that you had finished up the bike and pedestrian
Mhm,
contract and sent in.
mhm.
I never got to see that.
It's not done. I just sent them some edits that I found some misspellings and things like that. So it's still gonna come back.
So we'll get a copy
Oh,
of it
yeah.
before it goes to anybody for
Yep,
approval. Okay.
absolutely.
I think that's it for me.
Hey, Randy, you good? Jeff? Okay, I'll just take a brief minute. Tim Moffett called me yesterday evening late. If I remember correctly, he said the Appropriations Committee had come up with some extra money out there and asked if we would look at it and see if we could find any place that we might could use it and have a good reason to use it. If we did, to present a letter to his office and he would pass it along. I did ask for if he thought, since we had appropriated the $500,000 toward the farmland preservation out of our ARPA funds, if he thought that the state might match that. He said, possibly, if not matched, we probably could get some money for it. I also asked him what he felt about the double snap program, if he felt like that they would come on board and help on that. He said, don't hurt to ask, get a letter drawn up, call my office, they'll tell you how to set the verbiage and get it to him. So if y'all collectively as a group or individually think of anything that fits into that part of this, we need to get it to him within the next 2.5 weeks. Jennifer Balcom is also on board and with the same idea. She's sent out an email for the same thing. So reach out to either one of those people, get it to Daniel, whoever, Sue, Patty, they'll help us get it to the right person. Because I don't know how to tell you exactly where it's at. He said, just get it to his office or Jennifer's office and they would pass it on through. Okay? Go ahead. Yeah, I may not be able to answer it, but you can answer it.
Okay, when we designated the $500,000 in the ARPA funds
Mhm.
for the farmland preservation,
Mhm.
does that still go under the stipulation that it has to be spent by 2026?
No.
No.
Okay.
Because we did the salaries and, yeah,
Okay.
revenue replacement.
Okay.
Exactly. Mhm.
I was just wondering about that because I thought,
Okay.
I don't know about that.
Exactly. Okay. the next thing is he is gonna, I say he, Tim said him and a few other elected officials was gonna present a bill. I guess that would be to the State House for even year voting for municipalities. Which would mean we would fall in line with, the governor's races and the presidential races, correct? So, I don't know why, I didn't ask why, we'll just see how it comes out. He did say that he was opposed to the municipalities having to do the, announce affiliation to their party, and leave them nonpartisan. I told him that, to me personally, that didn't make no difference to me. But for him, he said he was opposed to that. So we'll see what becomes of the 2-year, even year, if they switch it instead of voting every year. And that's all I've got.
And may I add
Yes,
to your first comment about the funding? Just a point of procedure, if you do have ideas, if you'll send them to one of us, as soon as you think of them, because what we want to do is get a big list of those things and then rank them. Because we can send as large a list as we want, but I think it would be more advantageous if we rank them highest priority, medium, and lowest.
and he did tell me that he felt like that this money had been allocated, here it is, but you've got March the 13th or something like that to have all responses back. So he said, what's going to happen is, he says a lot of people is just not going to ask for anything because they wasn't ready to ask for anything.
Right.
So he said, feel free to ask it, it won't hurt to ask. Okay. So if we have anything else, we'll move on and we'll have to move into a closed session. If someone would make that motion for me.
Like motion on the closed section.
Thank-
Discuss matters relating to the location expenses of industry and businesses in the area.
Thank you, Randy. Second? Thank you, Jeff. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. So we will have to clear the room. We're going to invite Daniel, Sue, Patty Stan, Patty, Council, and Brittany and her colleagues.